I recently got a Temu package and ordered the cheapest axe money can buy. This survival axe was $15 and comes with two things: a fire steel with a whistle on it, and a knife that is hidden in the handle, which will be a problem later on. And right off the bat, the knife feels very cheap. I will say the axe looks very cool, however, with this cool pattern on it. But without further ado, let's test this axe out first. This branch seems like a worthy opponent, so let's test it out on this. Right away, I could tell this axe was pretty dull as it was bouncing right off the wood. But it could still power through. It also has this little sharp part on the back, which is cool. Now I want to put this axe through a rigorous torture test, so we're just going to beat it up until it breaks. As you can tell, this axe was a big pain to use because it was so dull, but once again, it powered through. The stump seemed to be another worthy opponent until it did this. Yep, that hollow plastic handle didn't fare too well when prying. As I mentioned earlier, the hollow knife sheath within this axe handle led to its downfall. I suppose that should be a good lesson learned to buy a good sturdy axe so that way it doesn't snap on you when doing menial tasks like just prying a bit. For a bonus test before I broke it, I decided to see how well he could throw it. And I guess it passed that test pretty well. But now on to its unveiling counterparts. First, the knife. I wanted to put it through the same level of intensity of tests as the axe, so I decided to try to chop a branch with it. This took quite a while, and since the knife was so light, it barely chopped anything. But with perseverance, I was able to get through the branch. The knife suffered no visible defects, but as I felt the edge, I noticed it developed a massive burr. But anyway, on to the next test, which I think will destroy this knife: the batoning test. Since knives with no tang typically break with any sort of leverage, I thought this knife would break, but I was wrong. I even tried wiggling it a bit to see if it would break, and it did not, which was very surprising. I tried prying it out again to simulate something you may do with a better knife, and it seemed to power through that as well. But since it clearly could baton wood, I did a tip retention test. And well... as you can hear, the tip snapped off. While I acknowledge that the steel is very low quality earlier, I wasn't too surprised by this, as the blade was very thin too. But just for fun, another throwing test doesn't hurt. And it seems like you're able to throw it. And even after all that, it could still cut cardboard, so it comes pretty factory sharp considering it's Temu. Nonetheless, this knife seems to be good as an around the house knife or even a small cooking knife considering it's lightweight. Now, let's test this ferro rod it came with. For some reason it unscrews from the whistle part, but I suppose that's alright as you can super glue it in. The whistle sounds good. We can test this ferro rod with a combination of everything. Seems like the knife can strike it pretty well. So to test this ferro rod, I'm going to gather some fat wood from this stump. I'm actually using the axe here. The axe seemed to have held up against this small stump well, even with leverage. In the past I have explained how fat wood forms, but it's basically a piece of wood impregnated with a flammable resin. But anyway, we will use the back of this Temu knife to make shavings off of the fat wood. And as you can see, I have made very fine shavings that will be perfect for the ferro rod. We will again use the back of the knife to strike the ferro rod. You can never really go wrong with a ferro rod, so this wasn't too surprising. This ferro rod would actually be a good one to keep somewhere considering it comes with a whistle and strikes very well. So since the axe snapped in half, I'm going to say it straightforwardly: don't buy axes from Temu. The ferro rod is very nice, and this set could be a cool collection piece. This also was a good deal. 3 survival items for 15 bucks. Not a bad deal. But overall, I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10 because the very cheap plastic handles and the knife tip breaking. But the axe looks cool and the ferro rod was nice, but that's about it. Peace.